Hey there, hey, it is Michelle with Brilliant Quest, and today I want to talk about self-improvement. You can't swing a cat these days without finding some article or especially some video that's real popular that talks about how self-improvement ruined my life. And I want you to understand that the first and the biggest thing that we all must remember, especially when we're talking about doing something to improve ourselves, is moderation. Mhm. If you're in this, this world and you're trying to do something for yourself, anything can be a bad thing when done too much. And therefore, yeah, of course, self-improvement will ruin your life if you do it too much. Now, I did a cursory overview. I didn't watch all the videos, or just trying to get the gist of what these people are saying. And I'm not trying to argue that that's not true. I'm just simply saying I wanted to see their position or their point of view on this. And a common theme started occurring, and that was that things are going to the extreme. Now, I am all about understanding the flow of things, the order of things. If you're rocking with me and watching my videos, you know I'm all about that because I actually learned that from what I call my ancestors, the little deep voice. And it says, that you need to understand the progression of something because what you don't understand, you don't know how to guard against. And one of the things, and I put this in another video, and that is, this is what I'm seeing happening in self-improvement, but it's just an order of things. And that is the extreme. When it's first presented, it is extreme because it is outside of the norm. Then it moves into the norm, or it moves into the regular. And then it moves into the required. And that's whether we're talking about self-improvement or whether we're talking about ideas. And even though extreme eventually becomes required, it can be good or bad. What do I mean? Let's take in point. Trip, the word trip. Back in the 60s, when LSD and psychedelics were becoming a big deal in the fringe societies, in your Berkeley's, higher education Berkeley's, the hippie movement and all of that, people would have these experiences. And Terry, oh my gosh, I'm going to put his name up here, but he was a researcher and he coined this word trip. Now, remember, this is in the fringes. This is in the outside of mainstream. Well, today, 50 plus years later, we now use the word trip in everyday language, and everybody understands what it means in the context of having a non-physical trip due to your behavior or to drug use or whatever it might be. And that is an example of how the extreme moved into the norm. You know how when you say people say, let's normalize. So that's what they're doing. They're trying to bring the extreme into the normal. And then the normal becomes required, meaning that word, that is an acceptable word. Sometimes it's a required word when you're really trying to say something. Think about the last time you had a conversation with someone and they were like loopy or not understanding something. You find yourself saying, you're tripping. Sometimes that's the required word to really tell you, what you are. Really express what you're trying to say. But that is because that's an example of the extreme becoming the regular or normal, now becoming the required to do the best job. Well, let's go back to the self-improvement model and the extreme. Now, I am not poo-pooing on any regimens at all. I love seeing what people are willing to do and push the boundaries and be on the fringe. Whether you want to live forever in this hellscape, I don't know why, but some people are trying to get their bodies to house their spirits on this mortal plane for as long as possible. You have some people that are looking at trying to make themselves perfect in every facet and area of their lives. You have people who are doing great work, I think, like Andrew Huberman, talking about how peak performance in different areas of the brain work, all these different things. And those used to be the extreme. And now they're starting to move into the regular. Now, there's something about the regular that makes it become required. Once it starts moving into the regular, that's mainstream, where the average Joe Q public becomes aware of it. And because of that, nobody wants to be left behind. So you get this engine and this force of FOMO, fear of missing out, that now propels it where you become anathema to society if you're not aware or using or engaging in these very things that used to be fringe, used to be extreme. So that's why when we're talking about self-improvement, I really kind of want to put it in context and put a barrier around this statement so that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Self-improvement is still self-improvement. Self-improvement will always be here based on the fact that we have annals, chronicles, and everything about people from the way back of how they went about self-improvement. Marcus Aurelius in his meditations as a ruler was having his diary, like, I'm trying to get better. I need to do this or do that. And, that's really kind of like the glorified version of understanding what it was about for self-improvement for rulers in that time frame. Of course, we know it as Stoicism, but it was still about self-improvement. So we have a pretty good probability that self-improvement is still going to work. Now, let me tell you, when we're talking about self-improvement, I kind of want to say that right now, if you are listening to this kind of stuff, you got to be careful, because your life can ruin self-improvement. Let me say that one more time for the ones in the back. Your life will ruin self-improvement. How so, Sway? How? Because when you are myopically looking at self-improvement and you're not aware of the progression or the flow of things, and you get caught up in the mainstream's normalization of the extreme, you then become addicted, obsessed, and unregulated. Your sense of understanding about how much is enough for you goes by the wayside, where it becomes required. Now, something about required. Required. Now, we start with extreme. We move into the middle, which is mainstream, normal, regular. Then we go to the required. Do you know what's next after required? Yeah, you guessed it. Exaggerated. And that is how you'll see people that have just gone too far in whatever it is. And either they didn't have the community, or they didn't have kind people around them to tell them the truth and not try to care about whether they continue to like them or not. But it just goes really, really wrong. Let me tell you another self-improvement flow, just so I can make sure that you understand that this is not me just talking off top of my head. This is history showing us. Don't fall into the trap of disavowing self-improvement. It's part of life. It is part of what we do and why we are here having this human experience as a being. Facial, it started with face. Plastic surgery. So during some of the wars before World War I, where we now had muskets and explosives that we could use. Gone was the sabers and the swords, and now we had long range projectiles that were doing major damage to people, especially in their faces. When shrapnel and things blow up, and it wasn't enough to kill people, but they were injured. And so these people had to, after the war or wars, they were returning to society. And they had to become shut-ins because the deformities of their face, their arms, or whatever was so grotesque that polite society could not stomach to look at them. And so there was an army. No, I don't know if it's an army. I'm just going to say he was a physician, and he worked in the field as a medic. And he started doing things to see how to help these people right when he was in the field, so that they could assimilate back into society. Now, let's qualify this. This is an extreme case, so this qualifies to be on the fringe. This means that not everyone was in need of this. This was an answer and a solution to a major, but very specific issue, to help people just get a modicum of where they could go in public, and that the healing of their scars and wounds would not be so offensive that the Joku public would run away from them in fear. So he starts this, right? Now, remember, what's our flow? You start from the fringe, which is the external, right out there, right? And it moves from the extreme out there into the norm or the regular. What does that look like? That looks like people who have a little more money, who are like, I know you repaired that hole in this guy's cheek so that we didn't have to see his teeth, but could you just touch up that little part right there, or remove these wrinkles, or my skin is sagging. And thus you get the wealthy that start requesting these services, and they get them, and they're willing to pay for them. So then after that, it becomes, a secret that that's what they do. They had a little work done. There are plastic surgeons right now that are showing you on video and pictures of plastic surgery that was done to starlets back in the 50s and 60s. So this was, it was here, but it was not normalized yet. And then what happens? It starts to get more and more normalized, where you get people who are not celebrities or the uber wealthy starting to get it, so that it becomes regular. Now, you already know where this is going. Now, it almost appears that if you're going to do something, and I do not want to, and y'all, please, if you hear that dog barking, either you got to ignore him, or I'm not going to ever get a video done. So I don't know, I might take that part out, but this is life. All right. So anyway, now it's required for a lot of professions. When I look at and I'm telling myself of my guilty pleasure, when I look at a lot of K-dramas, I'm like, oh, I see what you did there. Okay. So anyway, I'm like, oh my gosh, it has been required. This is what Joe Q Public is now requiring of people if they want to be in entertainment. They want them to have these symbols of perfection. Oh, and don't let me make it seem like it's just K-dramas and stuff like that. It's all over in every part of industry where you're forward facing. I guess that's probably why I just kind of like rebel at this particular time from coloring my hair or from wearing, lots of makeup, and hopefully I'm not offensive to Joe Q Public at this time. But this is me. This is me. But understanding that is the same thing that has been happening to self-improvement, to where, yeah, you start with the extreme and end up with the grotesquely exaggerated. And I'm going to be doing a video that I hope you watch about how to find your rhythm in this life. And it has to do with, understanding the pendulums of life so that you can keep going. But anyway, about this and understanding what self-improvement is about. It is about moderation. It is about using it as the salt of life. If you know anything about alchemy, you know about salt and what it does for us. So, those that know, and those that don't know, they think they know. But one of the other things that I want to make sure that I say before I let you go, and thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and comment, is that when you're looking at self-improvement, understand that how we use words. Remember that example from the 60s, the word trip, and how it became part of the lexicon of life. We are always moving into and out of understandings of our grimoire, our words, our magic. And today, if you want to have a better way of approaching self-improvement, instead of improvement, use the word aware. At this particular time and season, self-awareness is that word that offers you the reset of what it is you need to do so that you can of what you need to focus on so that you can do what you need to do to have improvement. When you have self-awareness pulls you away from watching everyone else and what they're doing and puts you into the flow of what you need to be doing. Like I said before, at this particular time, you can't swing a cat without people wanting to take these weight loss drugs and be thin. Now, I'm not saying, again, I'm not accusing anybody. If you are on those, God bless you. You are the only person that knows why you're on them, and between you and your doctor. Okay. But what I am saying is there are a lot of bandwagon people, and it's on my list to talk to you guys about what the different tactics that are used on consumers. And I'm sorry, y'all. Whatever this material is, it keeps pulling my hair. So please forgive me. And it's actually a form of propaganda. And so you got a lot of people that are succumbing to propaganda and fear of missing out. And with this propaganda and fear of missing out, they're doing things because now they're believing that, oh, this is what you do. And thus they are doing what used to be extreme, has now become normalized, and now they are thinking that it's required. I'm just gonna say that part. So let me wrap up so we can get to the good part. And that is, don't let your life ruin your self-improvement. That is one of the tenets of life, to learn. We go from strength to strength, glory to glory. We grow from a child to an adult. We grow from the novice to the master. And one thing about mastery does not mean that you have arrived and you have hit a pinnacle. It means that you have gotten to the point where you understand that you must come with a beginner's mind all the time. And that the more you know that you don't know. And so mastery is about a journey of just getting better and better, understanding that it's an infinite thing. You're never going to hit it. Just like the internet, you're never going to hit the end of the internet. There's not a website or a page on the internet at this time that I know of that's real, that says, well, under construction, there's no more here. That just doesn't happen. And that's the same thing with our lives and self-improvement or self-awareness, and what we need to do to continue to live a life worth living. Because another thing about self-improvement / self-awareness, without it, you get apathetic and you lose that drive to live. We are programmed, if you will, to always be seeking. Jeff Bezos, he said it about consumers, but you can say it about humans. He said consumers are never satisfied. We as humans, we're never satisfied. One of the words that when I'm writing, that's a bad word for me, is never make my characters content. Because content means satisfied. It means the end. When you become content, your journey is done. Why stay here? And so understand that self-improvement helps us to continue to be on our journey, because it's going to continue to reveal to us whether it be nuances or huge areas that we need to shore up and improve. So do not get fooled by that catchy little phrase of curiosity of, oh, why self improvement is ruining your life. No, it's not ruining your life. 9 times out of 10, it is showing or highlighting, and thankfully so, what happens when you get out of understanding that all things must require temperance and moderation. When you get too much on one side of something to the excessive, where you have moved past the flow of things, and not 9 times out of 10, you don't even know that that exists, where the extreme that has been normalized becomes required and then becomes excessive and it becomes grotesque. This will help you to understand that, yeah, that can happen when you're not aware. But now that you have watched this, honey, you are well aware and you understand why and what and how that you need to always be embracing self improvement, which is AKA self awareness. All right, guess what? My time is up. I thank you for yours. This is Michelle, your big sis, with Brilliant Quest. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.